clicking on this video. My name is Carolyn and this channel is all about true crime, mystery, and anything abnormal. Highly recommend subscribing because this channel is definitely a vibe. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today's story is about a woman by the name of Lisa Harnum, and she knew that there was a very good chance that she was going to lose her life in the relationship that she was in, but she was brilliant and she made sure that if she was going to die, the police were going to know exactly who did it. Lisa Celia Harnum was born on June 12, 1981 in Scarborough, Ontario, and Scarborough is just the east end of Toronto. Lisa grew up, she lived with her mom and she lived with her older brother, Jason, who she was extremely close to. She was an absolutely beautiful woman. She was admired and loved by everyone. And I know a lot of times when we talk about victims, it's always, oh, she could light up a room. But in this case with Lisa, it really was true. She really was quite an amazing and spectacular woman. She was very intelligent and she was very mature for her age. And she really had a way of taking everyone who was around her and making everyone feel really comfortable and included. Lisa and her brother Jason were extremely close and they spent a lot of time together. They definitely had a very deep connection. The two of them loved doing things like playing football. They also enjoyed doing martial arts, listening to music together, and really just enjoying each other's company. Another big part of Lisa's life was dance. She started dancing when she was 3 years old, and she loved to do ballet, and she also did other types of dance like tap and jazz and all those types of things. Her real passion seemed to be ballet, and she was extremely talented at it. Lisa took dance extremely seriously, and when she was 8 years old, she joined a dance studio that was close to her home. And by joining the dance studio, not only did she get to dive deep into her passion for dancing, she also met her best friend Sarah there. The two of them got along instantly when they met. They both were extremely passionate about dance and their bond grew really, really strong. Lisa and Sarah not only got to spend a lot of time together at the dance studio, they also went to the same high school. So the two of them were pretty much inseparable. They spent all of their time together and they had just a really amazing friendship. When Lisa was in high school, she got a job at a department store and she worked in the perfume department at the store. And there she made a lot of new friends. The new friends that she made, they really liked going out to clubs. They loved to go downtown Toronto and go to clubs. But Lisa herself, she wasn't into drinking or doing any types of substances. She really would love going to clubs, but she loved going because of how much she enjoyed dancing. So she would go out with all these new friends and they would be drinking, you know, kind of just doing the normal types of things you do when you're young. But Lisa, she wasn't interested in drinking and she definitely wasn't doing any types of substances. Her passion really was dance. So she loved going to clubs because she could spend the whole night dancing. In 2005, when Lisa was 24 years old, she decided that she wanted to move to Australia. And it's very common for Canadians sort of in their early 20s to really want to go to Australia. I have known, I can't even count the amount of people who have gone to Australia. Some people, what they'll do is they'll do a year of university in Australia. Some people will go for a year and just work. And a lot of it is they have amazing weather that Canadians really enjoy. And they also have amazing surfing, which is a big draw for a lot of Canadians. So it sort of is quite common thing for Canadians in their, early 20s to go to Australia. And that's exactly what Lisa did. Lisa decided when she went to Australia, she was going to go by her middle name, Cecilia, but I'm going to refer to her as Lisa for the whole video, just so we're not getting confused. I'm still talking about the same person. Lisa initially went to Australia on a work visa. So her plan initially was to go there and live there and experience Australia and work and live. But she did initially plan to return to Canada. But once she got there, she absolutely fell in love with the country and decided that she wanted to stay. So she started working on becoming an Australian citizen. And she got a job in Sydney. She was working at a college that specialized in doing hair, and she was really enjoying herself and really thriving. Unfortunately, in 2009, she would meet a man who would destroy her. But in the end, Lisa was going to make sure that he would get caught for the absolutely disgusting, horrific things he had done to her. In 2009, Lisa was looking for a new place to live, and a friend of hers introduced her to a man by the name of Simon Gittany. Simon was 38 and Lisa was 28 at this time. And when she moved in with Simon, it was to be roommates. It was not a romantic relationship where she ended up moving in with him. They were supposed to be platonic roommates. Simon was an extremely successful shoe importer, and he was quite wealthy. Lisa moved in to the apartment, which was an absolutely luxurious apartment, and it was on the 15th floor, and it had a very large balcony, and this will become significant later in the story. The two of them initially living together platonically changed, and it became romantic between the two of them, and they began dating. In 2011, on Lisa's birthday, Simon proposed, and Lisa accepted, so the two of them were planning to get married. From the outside, the couple seemed like they had everything going for them. They both had good jobs, they lived in this really nice apartment, they were engaged. But if anyone knew what was really going on with the couple, they would have been very, very disturbed. Simon was extremely controlling. He was extremely abusive. And Lisa did, unfortunately, what a lot of people in these kind of horrific relationships do, is they try to hide it. They don't want everyone to know everything that they're dealing with. And even to this day, I don't think anyone knows the depth of what Lisa went through, but it was absolutely horrific. It did not take long until Lisa realized she needed to get out of this relationship, because not only was it a horrific relationship and she was suffering absolutely horrifically from Simon, but she came to realize that she was probably going to lose her life if she didn't get out of this relationship. On July 30th, 2011, Lisa called her mom in Canada and told her that she needed to leave Simon and she really needed her mother's help to do this, because she really knew she needed to leave Simon, but she was terrified to do it. And unfortunately, what we know from so many of these cases is that when someone is being abused in a relationship, a lot of times the most dangerous time for them is when they try to leave. And that, unfortunately, is exactly what happened in this case. When Lisa made the phone call to her mother, she was hiding in the bathroom. She was trying to have this conversation with her mother, hoping that Simon would not hear it. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything that Lisa did that Simon did not know about. When she was speaking to her mother knew immediately she was in distress and she needed help. So her mother said, I'm going to take time off work. I'm going to book a flight as soon as I can. But unfortunately, her mother's in Canada and she's in Australia. And I believe the flight Don't quote me on this, but I believe the flight from Canada to Australia is about 24 hours. I'm not exactly sure it's 24 hours, but it's a very, very long flight. So it's not like her mom was in the same city or even the same country and she could come immediately. So Lisa's mom obviously assured her that she was going to get there as soon as possible. There were two students who were walking past Lisa and Simon's apartment building around 10 a.m. on the same morning that Lisa had called her mom. As they were walking by, they heard a blood-curdling scream. So they look up to where the scream is coming from, and in absolute horror, they see Lisa falling from the 15th floor, and obviously she lands on the ground. And immediately after Lisa hit the ground, a bag was dropped from the same balcony. So I can't even imagine these students witnessing how horrific that would be. Obviously, Lisa did not survive this fall. So they look up to the balcony to see like where she come from, what is going on, and they can see a man not wearing a shirt who is standing on the balcony looking over. And they didn't know this, but it was Simon. Simon very quickly left the apartment, got into the elevator. When we know this because there's CCTV footage of him leaving the apartment, going into the elevator. He seems kind of frantic, and he obviously exits the apartment building and goes over to where Lisa was laying on the ground. Emergency services were called, but there was nothing anyone could do. There was no chance that she could survive, or anyone could survive, a fall from that height. And even though Lisa was gone, Lisa wasn't done talking yet. Because, you know, obviously when her body is taken to the hospital, they go through the clothing that she's wearing. And in her pocket, they find a tiny little note that had been ripped up. And on the note, Lisa had written, "There are security cameras inside and outside of the apartment." Police obviously are immediately suspicious that this woman has died in this way, and in her pocket is a little note telling them about security cameras. When they mention, is there security footage to Simon, he says, yes, there is. There is some outside, there is some inside. Simon failed to mention to them that there was a hard drive with stored footage on it, which was the footage from inside the apartment. Unfortunately, by the time the police found out that there was a hard drive, Simon had already removed it. But what Simon failed to remove was the cameras outside of the apartment showing what happened just moments before Lisa went off of that balcony. And I'll put the photo in here. This is what the police saw. The camera showed Lisa trying to escape the apartment and Simon dragging her back into the apartment. When police asked Simon what had happened, he claimed that Lisa had climbed over the balcony, and there was like a little kind of, I don't know if you'd say shelf, there was like a little area. And so he's claiming she climbed over, not intending to jump, but once she climbed over, then she fell. And she just happened to do all of this with her bag. Police immediately were suspicious of Simon. It didn't make his story made absolutely no sense. And also, if this was just a normal situation, I don't think Lisa would have had a ripped up note in her pocket informing them that there were security cameras. So obviously the police look at the footage and they can see that there was a violent interaction in between Simon and Lisa right before she went over the balcony. And Simon did admit to them that she had tried to leave the apartment and he had dragged her back into the apartment. And he did say that he was violent with her when he did this. Now, the reason he told them is because it was on camera, so it wasn't something that he could lie about, because police obviously saw the footage of him dragging her back into the apartment. Simon then claims that everything calmed down. He went to the kitchen to make tea for the two of them, and this is when supposedly Lisa ran for the balcony, climbs over, and mistakenly somehow falls off a balcony. So then police decide to talk to the neighbors because Simon's story doesn't make sense. They're very suspicious of him. So they start talking to the neighbors, and the neighbors kind of fill them in on the amount of fighting that went on between Simon and Lisa. And there were also neighbors who heard Lisa screaming for help right before she went over the balcony. Lisa's mom was also able to provide police with a lot of information about what was going on in their relationship. Simon was extremely controlling of Lisa. He wanted Lisa to quit her job and just stay home. Simon also would not allow her to go to the gym, and Lisa was a very active person. She even tried that he was uncomfortable with her, existing as a human, it seems. So she even tried to have a trainer come to the apartment so that she could do her workouts and get training from this trainer. But Simon initially allowed that, but he stopped that very quickly. He controlled what she wore. He controlled the way she did her hair. He didn't want her wearing makeup. All the very typical things of an extremely insecure, evil, abusive partner. They also went through Lisa's phone, and there were times where Lisa and Simon would be together somewhere socially, and Simon would be texting her to not speak to any men that were around her. Like, they saw all of these very, very controlling texts that were from Simon to Lisa. And at one point, Lisa started to question, how did Simon always know where she was and what she was doing? And she ended up finding out that he had put software on her phone, so basically he could see her location and he could see everything she texted, everything she emailed. He could overhear any phone calls she had. So basically, he knew every single thing that she was doing every single minute of every single day. Lisa was planning to leave Simon, but she also knew how dangerous it was going to be for her to leave Simon. What she had done was she had gathered up some of her clothes and belongings, and she had given it to her trainer to hold on to for her, so that when she left, she would have her things, because she knew that Simon was never going to let her just pack up her things and go. This was not a situation where she could leave. She needed to escape. And Simon found out that the trainer had these types of things. And this was when Lisa found out the extent of the tracking software that he had put on her cell phone. In January 2012, Simon was charged with murder. He was let out on bail. So what does he do when he gets out on bail? Well, he gets a new girlfriend. His new girlfriend's name was Rachel, and it's like, girl, listen, if he is on trial for murdering his last girlfriend, you probably don't want to be the new girlfriend. But she did, and she stood by him. While he was on trial, the bail actually got taken away. So in November 2023, he was on trial, and now he was in jail. And his new girlfriend, Rachel, she was there to be his support her, not just emotionally. Oh no, this girl, she's going to support him financially. Well, he was on trial in November 2013. His bail was revoked and he had to go into prison to finish out the trial. And Rachel, she was right there, right by his side. And she not only was there to be like, oh, sweetie, you're innocent, I'm gonna have you freed, blah, 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 blah. She also paid for his defense. This woman spent over $100,000 for this absolute piece of human garbage. And it wasn't all her money. The majority of it was her money, but she also borrowed money from family and friends to give to his defense. And I want to know what those family and friends are thinking, because he just killed his girlfriend. Why are you wanting to be his new girlfriend? We know what he does to his girlfriend, so why are you signing up for this? I'll never understand these crazy people. During his trial, the prosecution obviously brought up how controlling and possessive he was to Lisa, but they also brought up that he had a history of violence. And in that situation, it wasn't his girlfriend who he had assaulted. I'm sure that he was doing the same thing to her that he was doing to Lisa. But in this, when he was charged for this past violence in 1991, it was actually against his ex-girlfriend's boss. And the boss was a man. And he's got a big problem with his girlfriends even speaking to men. So he gets into an argument with the ex-girlfriend's boss. He leaves. He comes back with a group of friends and they beat the shit out of this man. And while police were investigating that incident, they had searched Simon's car and they had found stolen items. So it even further, kind of bumped up the charges. When he was 20 years old, and he decides to assault two of the police officers. And the assault against the police officers, one of them was very seriously injured in the incident, and he was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for assault. He had also been charged and found guilty of drug trafficking as well, and he got a short sentence for that. And his defense, they claim that Lisa was depressed and she jumped off the balcony. But there were quite a few witnesses that proved that was not true. And a big thing that the defense tried to argue was that Simon was not capable of lifting up Lisa and throwing her over the balcony. The balcony was about 4 feet high. And then the prosecution came in with this picture to prove that he was very, very capable of lifting Lisa. And the star witness for the prosecution was a man by the name of Joshua Rothwell. The interesting thing about Joshua is he saw what was happening before Lisa went over the balcony. The other people who had witnessed had heard Lisa scream and they had saw her fall, but none of them had a view of what happened before. Now, Joshua, he was far away, but he was in his apartment, so he had a perfect view of Simon and Lisa on the balcony before Lisa and her bag went over. When Joshua testified, he had heard screams and cries. So when he looks to where these noises are coming from, he can see both Lisa and Simon, and they are fighting. And then Lisa goes over the balcony, and within about a minute, he sees Simon pick up a duffel bag, which was the bag that she was found with, and throw it over after Lisa had gone over the balcony. Right after the judge announced the verdict of guilty, Rachel, the girlfriend, jumps up and screams, "You're freaking wrong." It's like, sit down and be quiet. Be glad that he got locked up, because guess what, sweetie? You would have been the next one. Simon was sentenced to a minimum of 18 years and a maximum of 26 years, which I think is pretty light. And Simon will be eligible for parole in May 2031. And it's just so heartbreaking to think that this sick piece of shit could be out of prison after 26 years and Lisa is gone forever. And Lisa was a person who could add to the world. She was someone who brought joy to people, but unfortunately, she got into an absolutely horrific relationship with an absolutely horrific man, and she did lose her life. But in the end, Lisa was smart enough to make sure that if she was going to lose her life, she was going to make sure that they knew it was Simon who had killed her. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So that is all. I hope you all have an amazing day and do something today that makes your soul happy. And I will see you in the next one.